Dear Diary, it's April 11th, 2025. This is Satnam Singh Mago, and this is my third entry. And right now, I'm representing the Chicago Cubs. It's baseball season. I'm a huge baseball fan, and those who know me, this isn't very surprising. So, Cubs are in first place. Go Cubs, go! But what we're talking about today is actually a heavy topic, and it's something that has hit very close to home in my family. It's partition. So 1947 was the partition of the Indian subcontinent. It was done by the British, and it was done by people who had no clue as to what was going on in the Indian subcontinent. And it was done in very unfair ways. And then a year later, of course, the partition of Palestine. So before we get into some of the videos that I have to share with you, I would like for us to take a look at a picture of Al Najma Square in Rafah. So if you look at the top, it showcases what Al Najma Square looked like 18 months ago. And then at the bottom, that it shows this utter destruction that has happened in the last 18 months. That's US taxpayer dollars at work. And as vibrant as El Najma Square looked in Rafah prior to 18 months ago, I would implore you all to understand that they were still under siege. It was a beautiful piece of land. But they were under siege to the point where they could not go in, could not go out, and Israel was controlling the flow of cookies and coffee and the things that people enjoy on a daily basis. They were controlling joy that could be sent in, even saying that they were going to put the Palestinians in Gaza on a diet. Giving them enough calories to sustain, but they were never satisfied. And so ultimately, they had to do sustenance farming, large unemployment rates, all of those things. So when I look at this, it just looks utterly shameful when I consider that's our taxpayers' dollars, that's American taxpayer dollars that created the picture at the bottom, that created all of that death and destruction. So, but yeah, it's important that we see that. Sometimes we have the urge to look away. It's very hard mental health wise to actually be able to see all these images, but some of them we must. And so I also had the privilege being a call-in guest on the Majority Report with Sam Cedar and Emma Vigland last year. And I just called in, and they took my call, and I got to talk about partition through the lens of my father and my Bijam Papaji, his parents, and what they went through. And when you consider that happened in 1947, you consider the Nakba in 1948, it's very easy to draw parallels to these situations. So let me share that with you as well. Not sure why it's not working here, but bear with me for a second, and I will get it working.
Hi, Sam. Hi, Emma. My name's Anthony Mago. I'm from the western suburbs of Chicago. So I am Sikh American, and I wanted to talk a little bit about partition through the lens of a Sikh American. Sure. Yeah, my family was ethnically cleansed from Fateh, Pakistan in 1947, a year before the Khalsa. My father was 2 years old. He was 3 years old at the creation of Israel, and I think that what needs to be understood in the partition plan of Palestine and of the Indian subcontinent, Lord Mountbatten did the partition plan of India, and they based it on religion. Whereas India has never actually been organized in that way. India actually, prior to the British, didn't exist. It was, 40, 50 different kingdoms, principalities that kind of worked together on economic issues. Sometimes they fought, sometimes they didn't. But there was relative peace amongst the people. Like my Punjabi people are Sikh, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Jain, Buddhist. We identify based on our linguistic cultures, but that's not how we were divided. And I think that neither was Palestine. Palestine had equal rights prior to Zionism when it came to Jewish people, Christians, Muslims, etc. And I think that the Zionist project is undermined this entire idea of togetherness. I have a friend in Beirut, Lebanon. He's a Palestinian activist for the One Democratic State initiative, and that's what they believe can constitute peace through an end to apartheid and recognition of the humanity of all. Because when we lived together, we were far more secure. Hi, Sam. Hi, Emma. My name's Anthony Mago.
All right, so a little technical difficulties there. It happens. But ultimately, you got the gist of it. That was my family story, and I think that it's very much shows that we were much more peaceful. We were much better when we were together. It's very clear to me that Punjabi people who are any religion, Muslim, whatever, like I have more in common with them than I have with Sikhs from other parts of the world. So like Sikhs that are Afghani, for example, I have more in common with Punjabi Muslims than I do with Afghani Sikhs, who are ethnically Afghans, right? So it's just something that has been very clear to me. And I, of course, we can't go back when it comes to that. But one of the things that really struck me, my father's been to Pakistan, to the place of his birth, 3 times since he was forced to leave at age 2. My BG, his mother, every time she would talk about her childhood home, she would talk about the beautiful lakes that she would go swimming in. She would talk about the mountainous region, and I could see that little glitter in her eye. It was just starstruck by what she lost when she left. And my Papaji, it was his best friend Yusuf that actually saved our family and kind of warned him that, hey, you got to get out. And so he lost a friendship through that process. Many people lost their friendships. And funnily enough, when my dad went back to Pakistan last year with my mother, or actually I think 2023 is when they went. But when they went, it was almost like the prodigal son had returned. There were people on the streets that were like, pleased to see a Sardarji or a turban Sikh like coming back, because especially the people that were over the age of 80, in their 80s, many of them, they grew up with friends that were Sikh, and then one day partition happened and they had to flee. So I don't pretend to speak, like I can't speak for the Palestinian people, obviously. I do believe in togetherness. I do believe in a one democratic state solution, but we have to be very careful that we don't speak past the Palestinian people the way that the Nakba took place, where they were not consulted on partition and all of those plans. So, but what I can tell you is there's many groups on the ground within Lebanon, Jordan, within Palestine itself that are pro one democratic state. And there's also allies amongst Israeli Jews. There's a channel called the Hebrew Canaanites. I will put that in the description. But they say that Israel's on their passport, but they would prefer to be Palestinian Jews, and they want to stay there with their Palestinian brothers and sisters with equal rights, understanding that there could that would mean that their prime minister could be Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Druze, or whatever, or of no faith. That's how that would work. It would be equal rights for all, regardless of religion. So on that note, I would like to share a video from Gamal Abdel Nasser, second president of Egypt. I hope I said his name right, but he kind of touches a little bit on what I'm speaking of. So let me share that screen with you.
Say that they will not accept the state of Israel.
Yeah, they said that they will not accept state based on Judaism, on racial discrimination. And that's why they say that they want a democratic country for all religions.
But the Israelis won't give up their state based on Judaism. So the Palestinians will have to continue the fight for.
Yes, but the Palestinians, according to the United Nations Security Council resolution, they have the right to return back to their homes and their country.
But doesn't this, in a way, mean if Israel won't accept that the Palestinians will have to continue the fighting?
What will be the other alternative for the Palestinians?
No, I understand this, but then there won't be peace, even if Jordan and Egypt accept it.
Yes, but when we speak about peace, we must know the real interpretation of peace. Why this problem continued on for 22 years? On 48, the Israelis occupied parts of the Arab part of Palestine and refused, after the armistice, to take back the refugees. That's why the problem continued. If there is a solution about the Palestinian rights, if there is a resolution about the refugee problem, there will be no problem after that, and by that there will be peace.
So I'm just gonna let you know, I have personal feelings about everything that Nasser said. I appreciate all of his words, but many of you may not know that Nasser was a part of an unaligned alliance that included the former Yugoslavia, India, Indonesia, Ghana, and Egypt. And so they were all aligned on this specific issue. And one of the things about the unaligned alliance was they didn't want to join America and Western interests, and they also didn't want to join Russia. They wanted to kind of play the middle, and those countries were actually at that time getting rich off of trade amongst each other. Not so dissimilar to the current BRICS alliance, but I would say that the BRICS alliance has a lot of top-heavy partners, whereas these were mid-level countries that were able to create a middle-class society for a lot of their people. It broke down, unfortunately, and that vision didn't come to fruition. But one of the things that I think that Palestinian people get unfairly targeted for is the idea of what does from the river to the sea mean? From the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, that's the Palestinian liberation chant. It does not mean that there's going to be an ethnic cleansing of Jewish people. It does not mean that there is like an unaliving of Jewish people. That's not what that means. It means equal rights. And I think that the status quo clearly showcases that one group of people have privileges over another. And that is what is unsustainable. That cannot stand. And if we remember anything from our past with Jim Crow, South America, and quite frankly, in some cases, our present, but in regards to Israel and Palestine, when we look at the Levant from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, they're not at the stage that we're at right now. like we still have problems in America with income inequality and the legacy of slavery and the legacy of racism in this country. But where they're at, they're stuck in the Jim Crow era, and they've been stuck in this era for decades. And I think that we have to look at apartheid South Africa as well. Many people who were victims of apartheid in South Africa, they say themselves that the Palestinian apartheid is far worse than it was at the end of South African apartheid. So, you know, it is brutal. And I think that we need to recognize the humanity of the people in Palestine. It is something that should be inherent, and it should be understood that people, regardless of faith, deserve equality and justice, and all peoples deserve it, especially our children. All children are all of ours, as I said yesterday in the James Baldwin quote. So with this heavy topic, I would definitely like to give some brevity, and of course it's attached with a music video, but I want to play a song. It's in Spanish. It's Libre Palestina. Some of you may have heard it, but I think it's a good way to end this.
Libre, libre, libre Palestina, libre, libre, libre Palestina, libre Palestina sin opresión sionista, libre Palestina sin opresión sionista. Hemos sembrado la tierra, el trigo ya se cosecha, el limón maduro está, este oliva brotará, todo el mundo entero conoce nuestro suelo, todo el mundo entero conoce nuestro suelo. Libre, libre, libre Palestina, libre, libre, libre Palestina, libre Palestina sin opresión sionista, libre Palestina sin opresión sionista. Contigo tirando piedra, contra la tiranía. Ya llega la resistencia a defender Palestina. Escucha mundo, el pueblo está en lucha. Escucha mundo, el pueblo está en lucha. Libre, libre, libre Palestina. Libre, libre, libre Palestina. Libre Palestina sin opresión sionista. Libre Palestina sin opresión sionista. Era de nuestra tierra, la raza imperialista, este pueblo sea libre y socialista. La lucha del pueblo traerá un mundo nuevo. La lucha del pueblo traerá un mundo nuevo. Libre, libre, libre Palestina. Libre, libre, libre Palestina. Libre Palestina sin opresión sionista. 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 Libre Palestina sin opresión sionista.
beautiful video. And as you can see, I did a little wardrobe change, you know, representing the star for the 6 and Gafea. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, please subscribe, and please comment, and please share as well. All of those things help my algorithm so that we can produce more videos and we can get more of these videos out to people that should be watching them. Thank you. Have a great day. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.